Hey, it's Jessica here, and you're listening to episode number 2 of the 504 Rebirth podcast, the show that's going to teach you how to go from surviving to thriving after a cancer diagnosis. When someone first receives a cancer diagnosis, it can be overwhelming and downright scary. For me personally, it was like running the 50K race I did a few years ago for the first time, with extreme emotional, physical highs and lows. In fact, I saw bears along the way, had hallucinations, all kinds of crazy stuff. But if you're open to experiencing both the pain and the joy, then everything suddenly becomes more bearable. On today's show, I'm going to walk you through my initial diagnosis, as well as share some very personal details that I hope will help other cancer patients and inspire the support systems to take charge of their care, as well as share my top 5 tips after receiving a diagnosis. Stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy it. Hey guys, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. In fact, it's the way I made mine, sitting in the parking lot waiting to pick up my niece from school. It has all the tools you need in one place, and you can record it right from your phone or computer. When hosting through Anchor, your podcast can be played across Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more platforms. It's everything you need in one single place, and it's free. That's free, guys. So download the Anchor app today. Go to anchor.fm to get started. That is anchor.fm to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and apologize to all the guys out there who are tuned in right now listening to this episode, because there's probably going to be some details in here that might make you blush a little bit. So I personally find them pretty fucking humorous. So hope you guys enjoy it. So my story begins January 28th of 2021. So it's been a little bit over a year now since I've been going through all of this battle with cervical cancer. But it started out where I thought I had a bacterial infection, and I had taken a round of antibiotics, and it didn't kick it. And finally, long story short, I went into the doctors January 28th, like I said, of 2021, and went to the gynecologist for a pelvic exam, laid down on the table. Of course, you know, the legs up in the stirrups, all the beautiful things that you have to do for that exam, and you're just totally vulnerable, legs spread to the world. And as soon as they started my pelvic exam, I saw the expression on the doctor's face, and I knew in that moment it wasn't good. It was not good. And they looked at me and they immediately said, "We need to get you to Marquis Cancer Center immediately. There's a huge mass on your cervix." So, yeah, I'm telling you this story and I can feel my heart just beating hard again. It's kind of crazy to me. So I immediately burst into tears, and I was a mess. I had never broke down like this before in my life. And I looked at the doctor and I said, should I be planning end of life? I have this 17-year-old child at home, and he needs me, and he's going into his senior year. Should I be planning end of life? And they just looked at me and they held my hand, and the nurse grabbed my hand and they said, just breathe, one step at a time. And I always remembered that, just the one step at a time piece, because in that moment I lost it, completely lost it. And if that nurse would not have held my hand and encouraged me to take the one step at a time, I don't know what I would have done. So fast forward, they got me into Marquis Cancer Center ASAP. It was just a few days later. And from there, we scheduled out all of my treatment plans, which included 25 radiations, 6 chemotherapies, and then 6 brachytherapies, which is just another form of radiation. It's internal radiation. And I'm not going to give you all the details on that. Maybe on another podcast I'll give you that. But I went through all of that treatment in about a month and a half. Every single day I would go in to the hospital at 7 a.m. for a treatment. And the first couple of weeks I was like, oh, this is easy. This is great. I'm full of energy. I'm still able to work my job as an HR director, and life is good. I can get through this. So my mindset was really strong still. And then it was probably around week 3 or so that I started getting really sick and just weak, and it was starting to wear me down. And at that point, I went to work from home. I had a wonderful employer who allowed me to do that. And all of my coworkers set up a meal train to, specifically Rosemary Byert did. And she set that up to make sure I had meals coming to me so I wouldn't have to cook. Super, super helpful. During that time as well, my parents came up and they lived with me. And of course, I had my mama who, she was cooking me turkey bacon, and I had chicken noodle soup, and those were kind of my staples every day. I ate a lot of soup during that time. And I stayed in bed. Some days I didn't come out of bed because I couldn't. I was so weak. I was losing weight. I started at around 145, and started just dropping weight pretty quickly, and got all the way down to, by the end of all my treatments, down to 123 pounds. So, lost a lot of weight. And my mom and dad were taking care of me, and I knew that I knew I could make it through because I had an excellent support system. I had Jonathan, who was, my life partner there with my 2 stepchildren, and they had a day they would come over visit me. I had my sister who had a day assigned that she came over and spent time with me, and my best friend Cassandra Bragg, who is my rock and has been my rock through all of this. She was there every step of the way. And so with my support system, I was able to get through all of my treatments. And once I got to the other side, I was like, oh, great. I will recover quickly, and I will get back to work again, and everything's going to be great. Life will be normal. So we had a PET scan, a couple of weeks out post-treatment, and the PET scan came back, and it was exactly what I had expected. They said, you're cancer-free. The tumor is gone on your cervix, and we don't see the cancer in your pelvic lymph nodes anymore, and so you're cancer-free. You're good. We will just do scans periodically, and we'll make sure that you remain that way. So I was like, wonderful. I'm going to get back to running again, because as a lot of you guys know, probably the ones that are listening that know me, you guys know I love to run. I've ran since I was a little girl. So of course I jumped right back into running. Very slow though. I didn't go in trying to run 10 miles or anything, just a mile. And I built up to 2 miles kind of around the middle toward end of summer, and was feeling pretty good. And then all of a sudden it hit me, and I started having issues with breathing again, and was running slower, and noticed I had to take more breaks and things like that. And so long story short, I went through a lot of pain during that time of just in bed every night, crying myself to sleep, probably about 3 months straight actually, crying myself to sleep by myself, except for the nights that Tyson was there at my apartment with me. And I would just rub myself all night long. I would put pain patches on, take ibuprofen, and anything I could, hot baths, whatever, to alleviate this pain. And the doctors kept saying, no, your scans look good, you're clear, and you're fine. So I'm like, well, great. Maybe it's just the radiation has caused some damage to my soft tissue, and everything's trying to scar up, and that's why I'm having pain. So I went to the ER twice with severe pain. Scans came back good. Finally, I went to the oncologist the 3rd time around, which was about 3 months later, with all this pain. And that's when, of course, they diagnosed me with the recurrent metastatic cervical cancer, which is where I'm at now. It's the stage 4 of where it has spread to all of my lymph nodes and stuff, which is okay because I'm living wonderfully. As you guys can see, those of you that are on my Facebook page, I'm out visiting friends every day. I'm having fun. I'm pain-free right now. So from all of the diagnosis, all the way through treatment and everything, I have learned so many lessons along the way that I want to share with you guys, because I think it will save a lot of struggle on your all's part if you're going through the same thing. And so what I did, I put together just the top 5 tips that I have for you all after you receive your diagnosis. Number 1 is slow down and breathe and do your research. Become your own advocate, because remember, you're the one in charge. It's not the doctors. You are in charge. The doctors are only there to provide their expertise and their varying perspectives, but ultimately, you're in charge of knowing what's best for your body, not the doctors. This is your body. So I encourage you to slow down, breathe, do your research, take charge. Number 2, recruit your support system. Prepare to have someone cooking meals for you and performing basic household duties. Very, very important. Like I said, my mother, my father, they were lifesavers for me. My mom cooking for me, my dad out running grocery shopping all the time, as well as my coworker, Rosemary, who set up the meal train for me, and my friend Cassandra, who cooked soups and did juicing and things for me. So I had an army of people around me doing all the little details for me because I couldn't. And number 3, have someone outside of your family and friends to talk with, because yes, great, you've got this support system that you've recruited and set up, and more than likely it's your best friends and all your family members, because that's who you feel most comfortable with. But it will start to wear them down, or at least for me, for mine it did. And so I needed an outside source as well, which I found through online cancer support groups, specifically on Facebook. There are a ton of those on Facebook, as well as a therapist. So definitely find someone outside your family and friends. And number 4, document, document, document. I can't say that enough. And of course, those are my favorite words because I've been in HR for the past 12 years. So document everything. All the details of your treatments, symptoms, changes in your body, etc. I personally love spreadsheets. So I have a fucking spreadsheet for every single thing. You guys probably would think I'm crazy if you saw the spreadsheets that I have and all the stuff I track. But it is what has allowed me to take charge of my own care. Number 5, verify all the doctor's notes in my chart. That's the system that specifically the University of Kentucky Hospital uses, Marquis Cancer Center. Verify all of the doctor's notes in your chart after visits and request any changes be made if they're not accurate. That is very important because minor mistakes will make a difference in insurance approving you for different things. Just recently, I received a hospital bed for my house, and I received a letter in the mail a couple days ago that said I was denied by insurance because they did not receive anything specifically saying that I needed this for a condition that I had. Even though all my doctor's notes show I've gone through all of these treatments, I have stage 4 cancer, all this stuff, insurance still needed this very specific detail that said I needed a bed to change my bodily positions to aid in pain control. So verify all your doctors. I hope I was able to offer at least a nugget of information that you could take away from this podcast today to help you navigate your own cancer diagnosis, or maybe even just support a family or friend through their cancer diagnosis. And with that being said, I want to ask all of you to follow and subscribe to my new YouTube channel that I just set up. I hope I have it set up properly because I'm teaching myself how to do all of this. I've never done any of this back end stuff before, so please provide feedback on that too. But it is called 504 Rebirth. Everything is going to be titled 504 Rebirth, okay? Because 504 is my birthday. And like I said, provide feedback, comments on any future topics that you would like to see as well. I also want to let you know I have a website that's in the works, and it will be going live in the next 1 to 2 weeks. And on the website, I'll include printable versions of all of the helpful tips and things that I cover in any of my podcasts, as well as I'll have all the podcasts on there too. And then coaching for clients will be coming in the next 2 to 4 weeks after I've set up all this back end stuff. Like I said, I'm having to teach myself how to do all of this, so it's taking me some time. I want to start the coaching immediately, but I have to put it on hold until I get all of the, like I said, just the back end stuff set up here first. And lastly, I want to send all of my thanks, all of my gratitude to those of you who listened to my first podcast, who followed me and provided feedback on my very first episode. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I especially liked the encouragement that I received from several of you guys that encouraged me to drop the F-bomb more often. So with that being said, may you fucking be free.